Welcome to the video introduction of the how to use the canine statistics and activity log file. This is version 2.0. I had some feedback from you guys and I added a couple new features, so I want to go over those real quick. First of all, this is a macro enabled document, so when you open this up in Excel, this is an Excel file, so when you open it up in Excel, you will get a security prompt that asks you if you want to allow macros. You want to be sure and allow macros and trust the document so it will work for you from that point forward. First screen you're going to see is this screen, and it will be for you to set your name, handler's name, and your dog's name, and the date that you went in service together. So you want to set this information. It's going to be important later in the reports function, but we want to set up this file. This file is designed for one handler and his dog to keep up with their statistics and utilization. So we set that information and set the user data, and once we set that information, we're going to see this screen. This is going to be our data entry screen. There are essentially 6 categories that we want to track information for, and those 6 categories are the traffic and pedestrian stops, our canine utilizations, our canine training, our public demonstrations, our officer daily activity, and our seizure info. So each of these areas is a separate area where we'll enter information. So I'm just going to start and get into this really quick. If I'm at work, I keep this up in my car on the computer, enter the date, the location of my stop. It doesn't have to be really exact, whatever you want to put in there. This gives you what type of contact this was, a traffic stop, assistant officer, accident, little drop down menu there for you, kind of PC for the stop. If you wanted to make any details or notes about the stop, your race and sex of your driver, your disposition of your traffic stop, report number if it's relevant, and then whether a search was done or not. Then you put that there, and once I would complete that entry there, I hit add traffic stop, and it's going to take that information and it's going to drop it into our database and then reset this area of the form for us. So each area works the same. We put the information in, we click add the stop or add the utilization or add the seizure. It takes that information and puts it in the separate database and resets that area of the form. So if we want to look at that area of the form, we click the little eyeglasses here, and this will take us to the database where it just put that information, and it shows you here the last entry that I just made, what it was for, and all that information. So I have some dummy information in here to show you guys. This tab is the traffic stop database, and once I click go to the data entry screen, it will hide that tab again. So the eyeglasses take us to each individual database so we can see our entries, where we can delete an entry if we made an error, or we can do minor edits of them if we forgot to put a case number in, or need to change our location or whatever. We can go directly in here. But for the most part, we don't want to add information directly in our databases. We want to use the data entry screen to do that, so it keeps our input in a consistent manner. So once I go back to the data entry screen, it hides that tab again, and then we would just go on and enter our utilizations. The way our utilizations work is, as we go down through here, we would put our date, our case number, who requested us, whether that was self-initiated, another agency, or a school, or whatever you wanted to track. The category of utilization, we have the detection and patrol category. So if it's detection, then when I select my type of utilization, the drop down boxes that I get match detection. If my category of utilization was for patrol, that drop down box would then be patrol functions. Okay, so I would just go through here, add my type of utilization, and then utilization disposition, was there an alert or no alert, and then any notes I wanted to make, and I could add my utilization. Again, it resets this area of the form for us, drops it into the database. As you can see right here on the top, it's the information I just entered. If I had forgot to put a case number, I could just type in here and add my case number into the database, or who requested me. I could put that information in there, and then click go to data entry, and it takes me back to this screen. Okay, so each of these areas works the same way. Some of the cells have drop down boxes to choose from, and some you can type right in. Where the dates are, it will automatically default to the today's date, whatever date you have it open. You can type over that and enter a previous date if you forgot to enter something, and it will reset itself to the current date for your next entry. As you get through here in each of these categories, for the officer daily, what I typically do is if I'm going to work a 12-hour shift, then I just kind of leave this up, and if I work an accident, I would put one accident report there, and I would just leave this area up. If I worked another one later in the day, I would come back and change that to 2, and then at the end of my shift, I can just add my officer daily information. It will drop it in the database. I only need to do that once per shift, so it keeps up with all of my hours worked and my officer activity. One thing I learned in all of my time in K9 was that our activity and the things we were doing with the dog became important to justify further purchases of dogs or equipment or scheduling or whatever. So we began tracking everything that we did so that we could show our justifications. Okay, so and when we go into seizures, we're going to keep up with all the seizures we make as a K9 team. This would be a team, a handler, and a dog. If we seize an ounce of marijuana, we're going to come in here, we're going to enter this into our seizure information, and all of these need to be entered in the smallest unit. So they're all set to grams, to a single LSD hit, a single pills, or a miscellaneous dosage unit. So the way that works, if I had an ounce of marijuana, there's a conversion calculator built into this document. When I enter this information, it needs to be in grams. So if I come over here and I enter 1 ounce in my conversion calculator, it tells me that my total grams here are 28.35. So I would enter 28.35 in there. If there was any money seized with that, I might add money right here. And once I was finished entering my information, then I would just add the seizure. It would drop it in the database and reset that area of the form. Now, when it enters this information, it does calculate the street value for us. Now, we set that street value in this area right here. So when you get the document and you set it up, you're going to want to put the street value for these particular drugs in your jurisdiction. So as you can see, it's broken down by gram. So if we had 1 gram of marijuana here, it would take 1 gram and multiply it by $10, and it would add that seizure street value was $10. So it does the calculations on the backside for you, but you just have to set the value. Now, if you use this document for a year and then all of a sudden the price of powder cocaine goes up to $100, you can just change it to $100, and it will change your calculations from that point forward. It doesn't go back into your database and change them. It does that multiplication off of every seizure that you make. So you set your street values here, it calculates it and dumps it in there for you. So you'll just always leave those up like that. Now, all of that is pretty self-explanatory, and now I want to go over some of the reporting features. And the first one I want to talk about is the K9 team dashboard, and this right here is a running career total for you. So it takes all of our categories, it puts our name, the K9 team, the handler, the dog. It's a career total report. It shows you the date you went in service. It calculates how long you've been in service, and it adds up all of your totals for your total utilizations, total time you've spent in training, for your obedience minutes or your unit training hours, how many proficiency sniffs you've done, what your reliability rating is, total demos conducted, how many people there. So this gives a running total for the career of the dog from the time you start using this document. And you can put your out of service time here when you retire your dog. So it'll show for you the date that your dog went out of service, and it can give a total synopsis of the career of your dog and what that dog accomplished for you and for your department. So the next tab over here is the Canine Team Reports. Same layout, same exact information, but now this is designed so that you can pull a monthly report or a complete year report. So right now it's selected for all of 2018. So this is showing all of the information that was entered for 2018. If I wanted to look at a single month, I would just select the month number, and it would automatically change all the calculations in here for June of 2018. And every time you change that, it's going to show you that particular month and pull those numbers out for you and auto calculate them. So basically what you'll have is you'll be able to submit this report to your chief or your canine supervisor so that they can have your report for the month or for the year, however you want to submit it to them. And I have made an add-on to this document, which is a separate document, which I'll go over in a minute, but this will allow for a canine supervisor to take this report from multiple teams and do an entry for each team, and then he can track that complete canine unit for the department, and all of the numbers will be automatically calculated for him to submit his monthly or yearly reports for the canine unit. So that was a feature that some people were asking for, is to be able to handle multiple dogs at a department. So I came up with a way to do that, and it's just an add-on document. We'll talk about it in a minute. But again, if I wanted to look at total numbers for 2017, I change the year to 2017 and select all, and it's going to show me all of my numbers for that year for 2017. Then I can just hit print or save as a PDF and email it to the chief or canine supervisor or whoever you need to send it to. Now, the next two tabs are also kind of reporting tabs for you to be able to compare from month to month. So this next tab is a monthly comparison, and you can look at this and see each month everything that we track, all of the categories for your hours work, reports taken, how much training you did, how much seizures you made, and it gives you a year view here for broken down by month. And you set the year that you want to look at in this corner. So if I change that to 2018, all these numbers change for me, and I can compare months going across 2018. This end column here gives me a career look. It's going to always show me a career total, but I set this year and it will show me that year's breakdown by month to month. And then if I want to look at only the career numbers, I can press this right here and it'll show me all my career numbers in this different format. And again, I press this button if I want to see them all again. So over here to the side, we do a little nifty conversion from all the grams back into pounds, so we can see the total seizures in pounds that you've made over the career or for the year of working with the dog. So the next tab over will be the traffic stop analysis. I don't have any information in here in the dummy data, but if I did, or I don't have very much information in here in the dummy data, but if I did, it would break down everything for you. That way you can see your total traffic stops for the month, how many of those were made for moving or non-moving violations or city ordinance violations or whatever, disposition of the traffic stop, how many resulted in arrests, how many were citations or warnings, or if you didn't take any action. Search analysis goes into your reason why you might have searched a car, whether no search was done, a probable cause search, consent search, an administrative inventory, a search warrant, or if there was another exception to the warrant requirement where you did a search and you wanted to track that. Your demographics for the stop are broken down to the races and sexes. And from the Census Bureau is where I got all the races and sexes from the official ones of the Census Bureau to break down for the traffic stops, so that you'll have all those numbers and you can analyze them however you see fit, and it will then show you how many of each demographic you stopped and then how many of those were not searched. So if you had 4 whites were stopped and 3 were not searched, then you would know you searched 1. So it has all that information handy spot for you. So that's for your traffic stop analysis, for your use or your prosecutor's use, or to counteract claims that might be made against you. You have all this information handy in one spot and easily produced for court purposes. Again, your monthly comparison, and then your K9 team reports for your monthly or yearly reports here, and your overall career reports here. So now, real quick, in case anybody isn't familiar, I'm going to talk about what a proficiency sniff is, an accuracy percentage. So basically, your proficiency sniffs are how your dog's accuracy is calculated. So in order for your dog to be considered probable cause, your dog has to be trained, certified, and reliable. And the reliability aspect is going to come from your training notes and your accuracy percentage. So that comes from these proficiency sniffs. So if we laid out 100 pieces of luggage, and we did a canine sniff on 100 pieces of luggage, and our dog had 1 incorrect response, that is to say that he told us narcotics were present in one of the suitcases that narcotics had not been present in, that would be 1 out of 100 items you searched, and you would have a 99% accuracy percentage. So on your training day, when you're sniffing items, put in the number of items you checked, so 100 pieces of luggage, and how many false responses or incorrect responses that you received, and you can make a little note of what category it was. If it was luggage, you can type that in, or cars, or whatever proficiency sniff categories you want to put in there, you can just type in there. But these numbers right here are going to be what goes into calculating your accuracy percentage of your dog in the narcotics utilization. So the next number we need to worry about is the bite ratio, and our bite ratio is going to be calculated by using this canine apprehension tab. So if we do a patrol utilization, and that utilization is a building search, and in that building search we got a suspect with a bite, canine apprehension bite, or canine apprehension no bite. So a no bite would be that our dog didn't engage them, they surrendered, they came out of the building after we challenged the building. It would be an apprehension with no bite. So if we did get an apprehension with a bite, we put apprehension bite. And when we add that to our utilization, these numbers will start calculating what percentage of your patrol utilizations are bite versus a no bite, and those numbers are going to show in your bite ratio right here on your stats page, which is important if you follow case law and they look at your bite ratio to determine whether or not you have a misbehaving team or a misbehaving handler. That's one of the numbers they look at. So it's important that you keep up with that and know what your percentages are. You don't want to find that out in court if you have a problem with that. So it's important that you track all that and you're able to answer those questions for your prosecutor. So the next thing that I want to talk about now, that's pretty much this document. It's really simple and easy. We just remember that we want to try to make all of our entry into our databases from this main screen, this data entry screen. We can view each one by pressing the glasses to take us into them. We can modify some information from here, but we don't typically want to use this database itself to enter the information. We want to go through the entry form because it makes sure all of our data is formatted properly so all the formulas work right in the document. Okay. Now the next thing I briefly mentioned a while ago for a canine supervisor, and I created another document, pretty much the same format, and what it's going to allow you as a supervisor to do, or it's going to allow your supervisor to do, is from this report you're going to be able canine handler prints this out or emails it to you and turns it in. We're going to open up our other document and we're going to enter these numbers that are on this monthly report into our other document for each dog. So if I go ahead and open that other document up, this is what it's going to look like. I have this entry screen is going to be laid out exactly like that report. So I can go down that report and put the information in here, my total counts. If there's nothing for that, I can just skip that field. So if the canine handler found 28 grams of marijuana that month, that's the only entry I would need to make right there. And how much the street value was for that based off of his submitted information. We're not doing the calculations on this form. This form is only to gather the information. So all of that street value is going to be calculated in the canine handler's form. So we have to just enter it in what they submit from that printed out form or that emailed form. We enter all the relevant information, and then we want to add that to our team stats. And again, it's going to take that information, drop it in a database, and so that we can see them all if we need to, and then take us back to this screen. This is set up by default to handle 10 handler and dog teams. If you have more than that, contact me and I'll get you one that works. So what we want to do is we want to set this up by entering our handler's information and their dog's name. So each handler we would enter in here and just go down so that when we go to enter that handler's information, it populates in a drop down box. We can say what handler and what dog. We set our year, we set what month number report we want to enter, and then we just go through, we put the total numbers through here. Once we're done with everything, we can go in and just add team stats. It's going to take that information, drop it in the database, and leave us on this form. Now if I want to see what I just entered, I press this eyeglasses again, and it's going to drop it into this big database table here where that information is then stored so that it can be filtered out on our report forms. So when it comes to the report forms, we're going to have a monthly or yearly form, just like our handler form, but it's going to include all dog teams. So if I wanted to look at 2018 for the entire year, I'd select all, and it's going to calculate all of this information for all the dog teams together to give me my unit statistics for that particular time period that I have selected. So I can select the year and then the month, or I can select the year and calculate all months together, so it'll give me that form there. I have a monthly comparison form, which is just like the other, all the same information, but it allows me to see as a unit what we're doing from month to month, how many hours we work, how many rests we made, all that kind of stuff, as a month-to-month comparison for the year that we select in the drop down right there. Okay, again, that's our database. We can make some edits in here, but we don't want to enter our information in here. It's too much information and too much formatting that needs to be proper. So if possible, we want to do all of our data entry from the data entry tab. Okay. All right, now I'm going to go back really quick and talk about another feature on this main screen. As I had some handlers contact me, and they wanted to make a couple of changes. So they wanted to change, maybe they didn't want to track DWIs, but they wanted to track how many noise ordinance violations that they had issued, or whatever the case happens to be. So can we change information in there? There is some information that I have set up that you can change, that you can customize it to how you want to use it in your department. So I'm going to go over really quick how we're going to do that. So if I wanted to change this just to show you how this is done, I want to change DWI drug arrest down here, and I want to make this city ordinance violation. So what I'm going to do is I have to change it. I can't change it from right here, or I'm going to get an error that says the cell's locked. So what I need to do is I need to go into the database. I need to find DWI drug arrest in my header, and I have all of the ones that are in black font are the ones that you can change. If it's in white font, you don't want to change those. Okay, so all the ones that are in black fonts we can change, and it's going to automatically reflect through the rest of the document for this document. So I wanted to change this to city ordinance violations. Now once I do that and I go back to my database, you see it has changed it here to city ordinance violations. So it's okay for you to change that and it'll track it in your document. But if you have multiple dog teams, everybody's document needs to be set up the same, or the other document won't work, or the supervisor document won't work. It all has to be set up the same. So now that's how I would change this part, the activity part over here, and I can change everything from here down. And now let's say I want to change the types of drugs. Let's say your jurisdiction has never dealt with marijuana wax and you don't really care about that, but you had another drug that you dealt with. Let's just say the drug that you had a lot of dealings with was Special K. So you wanted to track Special K, ketamine, separately. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the database. I'm going to find the marijuana grams, and I'm going to change that to ketamine grams. Now, the trick about the drugs is that if I change the ketamine, let me just undo that real quick because I put that in the wrong column. I want to do that right here. So if I change the drug itself in the weight section for ketamine, I need to change it in the value section as well. So I need to come over here and change it in the value section as well, so that it will reflect properly in my reports. Okay, so when I go back into my data entry screen, you're going to see it has changed. It's changed here as well, and now I would set the street value to whatever that street value happened to be for that drug, and now this is set up. But again, you don't want to change this once you get started, unless you're going to go back and delete information that may have already been entered in that column. So you want to set this up in the beginning of what you want to do, or only if you've never found any, and it doesn't matter, it's not going to change any previous information. So but once you make that change in that seizure database, it will show it automatically on this data entry screen, and it's going to show it over here so you can set your street value. So we are able to change everything, all of the drugs, into whatever you want them to be, and you'll be able to set the street value. But you want that drug to be the lowest quantity you're going to get, and you'll set the street value at that lowest quantity so all the multiplications can come out right. But that does provide you a way to kind of customize this document a little bit. Some of the guys weren't tracking DWI stuff, or some of the guys you wanted to track some different categories for officer activity, and some different things for drugs. So you are able to change those things. You're just going to change them in the database. Okay, now if you do that and there's multiple teams, once you set everybody's up properly, then you're going to also want to go into the supervisor file, into that database, and you're going to want to find the category. So I changed the marijuana wax to ketamine, so I'm going to find that category, and I want to change that to reflect what it's going to be on my report that's going to be submitted by the canine handler to the supervisor. So I'm going to change it in there so that it's going to also change it here on my data entry. Okay, and you'll notice if we go back to our canine handler report, when we go to our reporting, our dashboard reporting, that's ketamine's been added here, and the city ordinance violation has been added there. And as you can see, I changed it and I had information in there already. So now that would be an error. I would need to go back into there and delete all of that, any information in there where I had previously put marijuana wax. So now if it's going to be ketamine, I'm going to need to delete that so that it's going to be clean and not be calculating that ketamine there. So it does allow you for you to do a little bit of customization in this. As a handler, if you don't care about the team aspect of it, or your department's not running multiple canine units, it's fine for you to use it individually and set it up however you want. If you are using it for multiple canine teams, you want to be sure everybody's is set up the same way so that all the information is proper on that report that prints out, so the supervisor can add it to the right category. So I hope that if you guys have any more ideas, to shoot me an email. It's clay.smith255@yahoo.com, and shoot me an email with your questions or ideas, and I'll try to implement that into the next version. And for now, I hope you enjoy this one.